Hello, EriXpress viewers. We have a special guest for you tonight, or today, Ms. Ruth Negash. She's the CEO of the Federation of National Associations of Women in Southern Africa for 21 African COMESA member nations. So she'll tell us about COMESA and the Federation of the National Association of Women of Eastern and Southern Africa. Welcome, Ruth. And she's from Malawi, and I'm from California. So thank you for staying up late. Welcome. So would you tell us about yourself briefly, and we'll continue with the conversation after that.
Thank you, Isaias. My name is Ruth Negash, and I am Eritrean, and now I'm living in Malawi, working with the COMESA, Federation of National Associations of Women in Business. And I have been in my position the last 2 years. And this in Malawi is headquarters for our institution. However, it's been in existence since 1993, where the forefathers of Pan-African forefathers dreamt about United States of Africa, integrating it through its economy. And they saw the role of women to be one of the biggest factors to actually be recognized, and the importance of women as vital economic link within their nations. And they thought they would create an institution is to be created so that it can support, coordinate, but at the same time be a linkage between the women in the member states and the governments, and plus other partners, civil societies and others. So that was the dream, because African society, as we know, our mothers are pretty much the grassroots economic drivers of our continent. Most of them produce our food, produce our clothing, at the same time take care of us from beginning to the end, while they keep themselves and feed themselves at the end. So with this recognition, rightly, the forefathers have decided this institution should be created. We have 13 institutions in the COMESA. Namely, we have COMESA Court of Justice, we have Regional Integration Agency, we have COMESA Competition Commission, there is Trade and Development Bank, there is Insurance Institution. There's a variety of them. There's about 13 of them. There's Business Council. There's also an institution that follows, and divisions that follow with agriculture and trade, and policy. So there's a variety of them that we make sure our member states understand what the dreams of integrating economy is. We also get involved in building infrastructure at the borders, the cross-border infrastructures, and transportation, communication, energy. So there's a variety of divisions and institutions that look after this, because if you are to integrate, there's a lot of factors that need to be done. And the most important is harmonization of the policies within the countries. So my role is to let the women know this is the dream exists, the policies exist, and how can they be part of it? Or if there are opportunities and advantages, how could they use those advantages further their businesses, at the same time to link in the supply chain so that they promote their businesses, but also become participants in the national development of the nations.
Okay, so very good. So we'll come back to that, but can we go back and say where were you born? And I know you were in California, because I've known you for a long time. So can we start with that for people who don't know you?
Introducing myself, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I was born in Asmara. After that, around 11 years old, I moved to the US and went through Sudan, so I have a bit of knowledge. We stayed about a year in Sudan at a young age, and then when we reached the US, I entered the middle school, high school, college. In college, I graduated. First, I went to high school in Gunderson High School in San Jose. Then in college, I went to UC Davis in California. Then when I finished my studies, I went to the Peace Corps in Middle East. I was in Jordan. For 2.5 years, I did Jordan. Then I went to Eritrea to do some service, came back to California, to San Jose, and I started working there in the educational system, Then I did my master's in management, in educational leadership and management and administration in San Jose State University. Then I worked in San Jose as a middle school director. I worked as a teacher in math and science, as my passion is always math and science. So that took me into not just teaching, but also managing schools. So it was quite exciting, a lot of good experience. And then through personal choice, I moved to North Carolina. At North Carolina, I was working in a high school and I was the dean of the math education department. And I worked there for about 5 years in the high school, at a high school level, again, math and science, mostly math in North Carolina. Then as I was doing this, I was always involved with Eritrean projects. I would go back every summer. The beauty about being a teacher is you always have your summers off. But for me, it was not off. It's time to do national projects. So it was quite exciting, and with the chance that it gives me, I would go back to Eritrea and then be part of a variety of activities in Sawa, activities with Rahagerka, planting the Nagarba project. We were planting trees. We go Sidra Suwat, Haggis, and we also do the martyrs family and also but the orphanages. So there's a variety of projects through the Inuis and also YPFDJ office. So we would work those, and every now and then I get a chance to do workshops. So I think that involvement got my heart to go back to Eritrea. So 2010, I packed up myself, went to teach for 1 semester in Mainafei College of Education. However, 1 semester wasn't enough. I fell in love with the students, fell in love with Eritrea. So I stayed in the university 4 years. So I resigned out of my job in the US, and I just sat there. I never came back to the US.
1 year, 1 semester turned 4 years.
4 years in Mainafei, yes.
Yeah, in Mainafei,
yeah, Mainafei College, College of Education. Mm-hmm. So, but in the summers, now what happened was I flipped. It used to be we work in the US and go to Eritrea for the summer. Now, when I start working in Mainafei, I would work there during the year, and then the summer I would go back to the US with the family. So it became the opposite, and it was quite fantastic experience and exciting. But as a person, I grew a lot. I think I learned so much more about being Eritrean. From teaching, I would give them the management courses, of course, but also there was activities we did on leadership and consciousness and empowerment workshops in the university. And those workshops really taught me a lot. The involvement of the students, how conscious they are, how critical they are. You can't just go in an Eritrean class and teach like nothing. You have to be fully prepared. You have to know where you're talking from, because as I do my lectures, they will say, "Oh, teacher, can you give us the bibliography of what you're talking about? We want to read about it more. Where do you get this idea? Where can we read?" So they put you in check. It's not like the US where they just sit and listen and ask some questions here and there. But in Eritrea, it was a very good experience in a way. At the same time, we talked a lot about who we are as people, where our people came from, where the country came from, what is the activity of national developments happening, the current status, the political status, our people in diaspora. They were curious to find out how we live in the diaspora, what do we do, how do we get involved, and there was misconceptions at times. So those would be ironed out. They wouldn't believe me. They go, "Really, it's like that?" "Yeah, it's like this, but the media says this." "Oh, yeah, the media, of course, they're going to tell their agenda, but the truth is, this is what the reality is,
Teachers are valued, especially in the countryside. You mentioned that in our conversation. So if you can just elaborate on that so that people would what we discussed before the recording is that how teachers who are stationed to teach in the countryside, for example, are valued and they're given priority to come to the weddings or transportation. So if you can just briefly describe what you just said, because I follow Eritrean values and stuff, but this is because I never grew up or in the countryside, so I wouldn't know that. So I think I was fascinated by that. So if you can just repeat that.
Yeah. So being a teacher in Eritrea is a very satisfactory job. There is a certain kind of respect you don't see in the Western world as a teacher versus in Eritrea as a teacher. Culturally, the Eritrean society values teachers as high-level knowledgeable part of the society, just like a chef or a priest or cashier or someone who's a religious leader or an administration leader. That's how teachers are viewed, because they are expected to have knowledge, but also expected to guide the society, the young generation, into a better future. So from that understanding, if you go, even in Asmara, I remember my students would get married or graduate, and they would say, "Teacher, please, you have to come to my event because I would like you to be there." And then when you enter the event, they get up and they receive you. They say, "Oh, the teacher is here." And normally would go the other teachers in the department. So the teachers are here, and there's a certain area for the teachers. All of us sit there as respected guests, and a special juices, sodas or whatever it is, or suwa would come, and we have a special food with we were shocked. A couple of times I went, even when my student had a baby, we went to see the baby. The family had a special ga'achas for teachers ready for us, in a special area. It's quite amazing, and it's like a certain kind of dignity you receive from the society that you're not aware of. And then in the villages, whether there is like a wedding or anything like that, teachers are invited and they sit with the kashi, with the religious leaders, with the high level table. That's where teachers sit. And I remember I used to teach advanced courses, which were adult teachers who have had experience in the teaching field for a long time, but they come to our educational college for upgrade of their degree, whether they have certificate for diploma or diploma to degree. And I was teaching diploma to degree. I had a class of 29 students, 1 woman, 28 men, and I was the youngest in the class. So the students would tell me, "Oh, teacher, age-wise, we are your fathers and grandfathers, but in the classroom, you are our teacher, you are our superior. So what shall we call you? We can't call you our daughter, but can we call you what?" Then I say, "Oh, that's okay. Can we call you Dr. Ruth?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm not a doctor." "No, but we must call you something, of a dignity." So they recognize that my knowledge gave me some kind of dignity. Although age-wise, I was younger than them, they wanted to give me the respect of a teacher, which to me, that was amazing. So those students, because they've worked in the outside Asmara, outside the regular cities and the villages, the village cultural things were things that we try to implement in the theory. So as we're teaching pedagogies and managements, we would say, you must involve the community, must involve parents, there has to be a holistic educational system. They say, "Oh, we already do that in our schools." And then an Asmara teachers would say, "No, we don't do that. We don't get involved like that kind of level." Then I would say, "How do you mean? Explain to me." Then I remember one of them once told me, "Well, in our school," he's one of the village school teachers. He says, "In our school, teachers don't pay rent. The village got together and they built housing for teachers. And during harvest season, all the families get together and they harvest the foods, and they make flour, and they bring the food of flour for us for free. And then they hire a maid to cook and clean for us, make injera and everything for us. So we are fully treated by the village." And then when we go on transports, the bus drivers are told, "Don't charge the teachers." So they feel they're not told. Some of them are told, but some of them, they feel like they're contributing by treating the teachers for free transportation. And even if they pay for the transport, then they are given the front seat as a respect. So teachers are highly respected in the community in every level. That was to me exciting to hear. But at the same time, when there is decision making in the villages, about the village, about the society, teachers are invited as the high level decision makers with the chiefs, with the religious leaders, and they are asked as part of their contribution as a teacher is also contribution, and their views are valued to influence the decisions of the village. So that to me was quite amazing. And then the culture is still there. Even if you're now with the young generation, when they go to do national service as teachers, the same things apply. My sister had faced it like that. She enjoyed it. She went first, how could I teach outside Asmara? And then when she went there, she loved it so much. She did 4 years of national service. When she finished, she went back and to her Ministry of Agriculture, which was her field. But for the 4 years she was there, the respect she received, and she loved her students. And they would tell her, teacher, please come teach us before we graduate. Don't stop your national service before we graduate from Sawa. You know, prepare us for Sawa. So she would dedicate Saturday, Sunday to do additional tutoring so that they absorb the content in the village so that they can learn more and pass the Sawa matriculation for the college. So she really, there was no extra payment. She enjoyed doing that for them, and they really respected her knowledge and her assistance. And that experience is quite amazing. And it's something you don't hear in the media, or if you don't live in Eritrea, you don't know. But me coming in from outsider, that's something I celebrated and I really enjoyed. So this culture is quite.
Yeah, especially for you experiencing teaching here in the States and there, and also looking at that. So you have you know, how teachers are treated in the US and how teachers are treated over there. So it's important. But that brings me to another, because you know, I was doing a research about the Peace Corps, you know, going to, at that time, Ethiopia, and part of them were in Eritrea, even though Eritrea was under Ethiopia. But when we, during the research, we talked to people who are volunteers, US volunteers who went there to, like to Somalia or to Ethiopia and so forth. So, and then to the students who were students at that time. So the relationship. So what we came out was that the relationship, so the age-wise, the students were going here to volunteer to these countries were not really off from, you know, age-wise from the students there. But the traditional, the local teachers there are treated like, or they were like disciplinarians or like parents age. So the students who were taught by the Peace Corps, they were saying, oh, when the Peace Corps came, because of the age, they empowered us because they were the same age. So they gave us, they created different groups like hiking or, you know, that kind of newsletter for the school and so forth. So they were empowered. But in the 60s, when things changed, for example, the US image in you know, Vietnam and so forth. So the same students kind of turned against them. But the interesting part here, what you're talking about, is that the relationship of the students with the teachers, with the younger Sawa, and like what you're saying, is that the relationship that had empowered the students, right? Is that my understanding that the students, and the relationship between the teachers and the students is kind of like an empowerment, you know, and good relationship, not as a disciplinary and so forth. Is that, am I reading it correctly?
Yes, very true. Actually, very nice observation. And yeah, you're right. Recalling with the Sawa graduates, when they finish the university, they go back and become teachers, most of them these days. And when they become teachers, they have just recently gone to Sawa experience and college experience. They're able to share those experiences and tell the students, look, you go there, you study, but you have to take advantage of time before you go there to master the academic knowledge that you have. And this is how we pass. So at a close, you can say at a close time, they get a chance one-on-one with the teacher that just recently finished Sawa. So then this myth about Sawa being a negative thing is not there, because the teachers had just recently gone and succeeded and have come back to teach. So age-wise, they're the same, but experience-wise as well. It's quite, they're there to tell them from experience. It's not something they're preaching about. It's just they're sharing experience. So the fear they have of Sawa, because there's a lot of other things on it, it becomes an empowerment now, because they're hearing their young teacher, oh, I would just, this is what we do. Oh, Sawa, what do you do? How do you eat? And what do you get? So they get that one-on-one
lived experience.
with them.
Yeah, they share
experience. So the fear gets depleted. Instead, the preparation becomes now an important matter. So the students get the idea that if I prepare, if I study hard, I will succeed in Sawa. If I succeed and get good points, I'm going to go to college. So then that ambition becomes really nice. And I think also the young graduates, when you get out of college, you don't have work experience. It's quite difficult to get a job. So even for the teachers, when they go there to teach, they're getting a chance to have a work experience with the salary right after. So it's like a job is created for them. They're not unemployed. Most, in the West, you graduate from college and you got to look for a job, and good luck if you're going to find something in your field. While in Eritrea, no matter what the subject is studied, if you get out of college, you're going to be teaching in it. So you still have fresh knowledge theoretically, but now you get a platform to go and share what you just passionately graduated from. And then the experience, it also teaches you to become matured, because all of a sudden you were a student in college and now you're a teacher. So you have to act matured. You have to be matured, because now there are students who depend on you. There's a society who is looking at knowledge from you. So you become this completely like, wow, now I got work and I got to be somebody. And then it gives them confidence. It gives them collaboration, and they work. And the beauty working in Eritrea is the older generation, the teachers that were there before you, they don't throw you away. They really collaborate, work with you. Like in the US, when I first started teaching, I felt competition. The older teachers were like running away from me. They didn't want to help me. Most of them were like, what are you here for? You young people are going to come and mess up our pedagogy. You want to do student-centered teaching while they're used to doing the lectures, the teacher-based teaching. They didn't want to have that. But in Eritrea, you come, whatever you're doing, they embrace you and they support you. They share resources. They share what to do, how to prepare lesson plans, how to do assessment. They even give you ways on how you can grade your students' papers without exhausting yourself. Little things they share with you that makes your life easy. They're very helpful, collaborative, and also your peers that went there. The collaboration culture is so amazing. I can tell you one thing that really got me the first semester is my class were 5th year, which means they're brilliant if they made it to 5th year without being weeded out, because college in Eritrea is quite difficult. Have to study, and because there's limited resources, they have to share, collaborate to make it there. It just really, they're amazing. And that's why they go now outside Eritrea for masters or PhD, succeed, they get postdoc, because as bachelors, it wasn't just sitting there and being fed. They have to work for it. They had to read, they had to find resources, they had to learn what's given to them. So that hard work really builds them. So I go in Eritrea and the whole class is brilliant. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to differentiate? And so I give it my first exam. Guess what? The whole class got 90 and above. And I was like, what? How do you give the whole class an A? I'm like, no, there has to be. Then what I realized is whatever I was giving them PDF, because I couldn't find the resources in books. And it was quite expensive to buy books and bring them anyway. So I would get books and then PDF books, and I share with a Flash. There's an app called Share It. We share it with the whole class, just with one click, you share with everyone. And so they go take that clip. Some are reading it on their phone. Some are finding laptops to read, and they just read and they come back and they're so knowledgeable about the article more than me. So my job was to facilitate the knowledge. Then I said, oh my goodness, how do we do this? The whole class is straight A students. So I told them, you guys, you should not be sharing everything. Everyone should study for themselves. You know what they told me? That's the Western mentality. In Eritrea, we share everything. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But so then how do you do competition?
So in other words,
they're like, we share everything. You can't stop us. That's our culture. So how do you differentiate then giving ABCs? Then I had to go into project-based teaching. Of course, then project, they have to individually prepare and individually study and perform. That gave me a little bit, but I could tell you that class, everybody was ABC.
Yeah.
And then I have to put like a C being 80. Then still they performed. And of course, my dean was not happy. He told me, you know what, you have to give somebody an F. I said, I can't. Here are the papers. You tell me which is an F paper. These guys, they don't have F paper. They're all A papers. But they have, within variety, but once it's project-based, the research writing was a little bit different. So then he agreed with me and he said, okay, from now on, we're not going to touch you. It's performance-based. We agree with you. Go ahead and give ABCs. And that was a way for me, I think, that started to continue. Then I said, all right, I must continue teaching.
Yeah. So that's a good experience. I mean, I'm glad you shared it with us because, In other words, the teacher could get schooled too. So he got schooled, right?
I got schooled. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. So so after teaching MyNFH, what did you do after that?
After teaching MyNFH, got the position of manager of the training and development. And one of the things that attracted me to that position was that part of my job was to create a graduate development program, which is going to be from college to Bisha. It's an internship program, but it's a paid internship where students can come and work at the same time, learn practically. And so the Bisha, company is going to receive manpower to help out with their, day-to-day operations. And the students are going to go right after graduation, find a job where they can do practical learning in their fields. That's a win-win situation. For me, that was quite amazing because imagine having the first mining company in Eritrea, and then there's going to be graduated engineers that are going to work and learn there. And in the future, we're going to have Eritrean managers, Eritrean mining employees that end up being maybe mining owners. And we're going to have qualified experts in the mining field where we can take advantage of our own natural resources with our own expert HR or human resources. So I was quite excited. So honestly, I can tell you, I loved working in MyNFH because you go to Asmara every day and I love living in Asmara. My friends, my family, the whole Asmara life is so cappuccinos in the streets and all that, and the evening walks, morning walks, but it's going to take me to Gashbarka. And I was like, what? How long? And I remember when I interviewed one of the Bisha managers told me, did you know that you're going to be there the whole month and you're not going to see Asmara? I said, really? Deep down inside, I said, nah, I'm sure I can make excuses and come back for a weekend. I just wanted to fool myself with that. He said, no, really, you're going to be there without coming to Asmara for a month. And then you come for a week break. But you're going to be there for the whole month without seeing family and friends. How are you going to cope with that? Because this is Gashbarka, it's quite far. I was like, oh, wow. Then, I mean, first it was like, oh my goodness, really, do I want to do this? Then a split second went through and I said, no, I want to do this because I want to know another region of Eritrea. Asmara is not Eritrea, it's just one city. So going to Gashbarka, then the excitement came, oh my God, I get to know the other tribes of Eritrea. Because, the other ethnic groups live there, living in Gashbarka. I've heard about, and I know Sawa, it's not it's not like I've never been there, but I didn't know how the life of Bisha was. But I just imagined Sawa, and I said, okay, if it's like Sawa life, I think I could do it. It's going to be exciting. We're going to have tamsin, we're going to have hot weather, but we're going to have good water, just the little things I know about Sawa. That's how I positioned myself. And I said, but I'll focus on work and I'll be doing graduate program. That's going to be nice. So that's how I ended up going Bisha. And then when I entered Bisha that first day, wow, as I go through for the orientation, the interview passed, and I said, oh my Lord, this is like Canada in the middle of Africa, like in the middle of Gashbarka, we got Canada. Mm-hmm. The systems, how organized it was, and how qualified experts they were, the security, the food, the sleeping quarters, our rooms, beds. It was really nice. I was like, wow, it's like I'm in Eritrea, but I'm in America. It's like amazing. Mm-hmm. So all the things I knew in America were in Gashbarka and Bisha. And I was like, wow, I think I can work this. So after that visit, because they're very smart. After the interview, they gave me this orientation. I spent 3 days, did the HR, contract signing, this and that. And I went through induction orientation. So I learned the induction and how the system works for 3 days. And then I came back to Asmara and I was like, I'm ready to go. I didn't even flick. I just said, I'm ready for this job. So I came back and I told the family, yeah, I'm moving to Gashbarka. They said, are you crazy? How could you live there? Why you want to go there? What? And I said, nah, I made a decision. I'll go there. So that's how I ended up in Bisha. Then Bisha, it was quite another stage of learning. Not just a new field, because I'm a manager. My job is very comfortable because it's things I did all my life, managing people, organizing training programs, workshops. That's what I do. That's my profession. But the mining field, oh my Lord, I thought the smart people were in academia. Sorry, guys. The smart people are in mining companies, They're brilliant because they have to imagine a car out of a mountain. You look at a mountain, you look at a car, the process between the car and the mountain, that's what mining is. You got to get the rocks, you got to wash them through water, you got to put them through chemicals, you got to squeeze the iron out of it. And then the iron becomes smelted and it becomes something. And then that goes processed and the car comes out. And that requires ingenuity, and not just science, but also like psychology, social, economical, in every aspect of the finance. You have to know because everything is calculated by money. So I became quickly a businesswoman because I would go to the boardroom as a manager. We had 18 managers and I was the only woman manager there. So I would go in and it's a big boardroom. It's quite scary. I sit there, I'm so scared because I have no clue what they're saying. It's the first job where I entered and I know nothing. I know nothing and I'm listening to them and they're speaking 3.4, 1.2, 3.6, 8.4. What is this? It's millions. They're talking about 8.4 million, 3.2, 0.32 means like 0.322 is $320,000. That's what they're talking about. So the first month, all these numbers I thought were some kind of measurement of the metal or some kind of, the laboratory science, chemistry things. No, they were monies. They're talking in dollars and millions of dollars. That's how they calculate. They're brilliant. And then they watch the stock market, the prices of the copper, the zinc, the gold. Wow. And that tunes the production of how the operation is going to be in the factory. And that also tunes what kind of manpower you're going to need, where, what kind of expertise you're going to need. So, and then safety, of course, you got to do it. And Bisha, proudly, we have a record of no death since it started at the workplace. So the safety record is so high and the safety procedures are very strict. So I had to teach induction, which was mostly safety and procedures of work procedure. Everything had SOPs. So that was organizing the SOPs for the employees and then the graduate development program. So those were my tasks. And I tell you, it's the best experience of my life. Living in Gashbarka also, you learn in a camp. It's a camp. You learn to work with people. And then in the evening, they're the same people. You go to the bar, the same people. You go to the gym, the same people. You go to the cafeteria, the same people. Yeah. So you have to somewhat navigate and become like a family, but at the same time, still become professional and continue working. And being the only woman away from your friends and family, you got to make new family, but with parameters, because all of a sudden, you're also their boss. And that's the funny thing. They stopped calling me, nobody called me Ruta, they call me boss. I'm like, I'm not used to being called. I was like, no, please don't call me boss, just call me Ruta. And then my students from my NFA, they go, oh, okay, oh no, can we call you teacher? Teacher. I said, no, don't call me teacher. This is Bisha now, it's not my NFA. No, we're not teacher anymore, Then they go, then can we call you Miss Ruth? Oh yeah, you can call me Miss Ruth, that's fine. Because I don't want to be called boss. So this is the best thing was that. So it's a transition of personal, professional, but at the same time, the fact that we were contributing to the skill sets of our national young to get a job and a profession within their own country at an expertise level with this experience, with this opportunity where the government allowed and the company was working for them was so exciting because it is not done in other African countries. It's not done in many other countries. They just hire expats. But for us, 90% were nationals, the employees, 10% were expats. And there's a rule that says you cannot just hire outsiders. You got to first look for the skills within the country. You can't find it, then you can go expertise outside. That policy in itself allowed our people to have the platform to learn expertise in their own country. And that is an amazing policy for me. Now I'm in Malawi and I keep sharing these things. They would not believe it. Plus a 60-40 share in our company, 40% our government and 60% Canadian shareholders. That doesn't happen in Africa. Either it's 100% or it's 5%, 10%, that's it. The rest of it really is owned by outsiders. So that, just a lot of policies that were put amazed me and amazed the because I'm new to this kind of field. It amazed the expats that work with us, the other nationals from other countries. We had 33 expats that came from 33 different nations. We talked Tajikistan, Canadians, Australians, South Africans, Ghanaians, everywhere, Zimbabwe, Zambia. And when they come, they always are amazed with Bisha. They're like, this doesn't happen in our country. And we've had mining for all our life, like 2-3 generations, 100 years, like Ghanaians, they used to say, over 100 years of experience of mining. That doesn't happen in our country. So the correct policy that our Eritrean government has put in this mining, it was amazing for me. And because also the experiences that these expats are sharing with me really allowed me to appreciate what I did. And the 4 years was quite amazing. And as a person, I grew, but also the exciting work that we did together, bringing in all this knowledge, I think is prepared for the other mining companies that come forth, good policies and prepared our people for a good future.
So it reminds me of two things. One, I can relate to what you've been saying because you were our hostess when we came and visited you in Bisha, the workers complex, the entertainment section, and the training section, and all that. So, and then the security that you talked about. I mean, we went through it and saw it, and we even had a nice lunch and so forth. So, so I can see that. And the other thing that reminds me is what you mentioned as Canada in the middle of Gash Barka. And I think basically what you're saying is like, what that remind me is like the 1940s, the US, there was a Project 19, which was a secret, top secret presidential decree. In a sense, it was secret, where President Roosevelt had ordered, the Army, Peace Corps engineers and companies and stuff like that to go and establish Gura, where the Italians were there in the 19th. So when they were defeated, so they went and expanded the airport and so forth. So they created a company there. So they sent historians and people who work for aircraft company, airplane, who built airplanes, and engineers and cooks, and I mean, in the thousands of Americans went there to Gura in the 1940s, expanded it. And then one of the person who had gone there was a sociologist who wrote about that, called Company Town. So he had done exactly what you're talking about. How do you integrate? They were defeated Italians. They were the British who came there. And then the Americans are there. Then there are Eritreans whose land is there. They are the people of the 7 villages that they took the land from and expanded. So they have that. And then there are Ethiopians who come and work there. And then there were Sudanese who were coming there, and others, and Yemenis and so forth. So he wanted to understand how do you, work within that. So he wrote an entire book called Company Town. It's very, I think, one of I don't know how, it's a kind of rare book. But again, so what you're talking about is exactly that. I mean, you have from 33 countries, right in the middle of, and then how do you work together? So this takes organizational skill and what scientific, and so the brilliance and all that you're talking about. And then having 90% of the personnel being from Eritrea, it's impressive. And like the Ghanaians and others have been saying that, I think it's correct. So I think it's a good role model and so forth. So thank you for sharing with us your experience there. And then, so now we come to your position after working for Bisha. What happens after Bisha?
So after Bisha, I took a bit of break and around the world.
Sorry, Ruta, what time period are we talking about?
We're talking about up to now. It was 2010 to 2014 was in Minor Pay. Mm-hmm. Then 2014 to 2018 was in Bisha. Mm-hmm. And then 2018 to 2019, halfway, I traveled around the world for 6 months just to relax and have a break. And I didn't have any plans. So I said, this is my time to travel, because I've always wanted to travel around the world and go in a globe like that. So I started with Kampala, Uganda. Then I went up to Serbia, Belgrade, and then went to Japan, went to Australia, went to Fiji, just the whole trip, and then came back through Hawaii to the US. And also from Belgrade, I did go to Paris, London, Italy, just like that, just to see the European main cities that I had like this bucket list. So I pretty much emptied it and spent about 2 months in the US seeing friends and family, then back to Asmara. That was the April in 2019.